What is one rule that was implemented at your school or work that backfired horribly? My company, as part of its alcohol policy, said you should not drink for at least 4 hours before coming to work. When engineers got called about production problems over the weekend, they all just had a beer but could be there in about 4 or 5 hours. Weekend rule, no matter the time of day. Always answer your barracks room door with a beer in your hand. In my dorm, if you did something that triggered the smoke fire alarm, you had to do a safety presentation for everyone on your floor. This was intended to deter pranksters from pulling the alarm. A guy on our floor was making grilled cheese in the kitchenette and burned it, which legitimately triggered the fire alarm. Afterwards, he explained, assuming that since it had been a legitimate alarm and not a prank, that he wouldn't have to do a presentation. He was, of course, wrong. So, the next Wednesday night, the entire floor assembled, and we were treated to a 30-minute safety presentation on the dangers of grilled cheese sandwiches. It contained literally nothing about fire safety. It was all choking hazards and cholesterol. Our was furious. But the student pointed out that the write-up that he'd been given just said safety presentation. We didn't get any more presentations after that. If you violated the dress code policy, you had to wear these really big grey sweat pants or sweatshirts that said DCV in big orange letters. Dress code violation. It became a thing to get caught because they were apparently really comfortable. When the admin finally caught on that people were trying to get them on purpose, they changed it so that you got in school suspension. Jokes on them for that too. Lots of kids preferred that over being in class. Well, it wasn't a school-wide policy, but I had a super itchy French teacher who would constantly hand out detentions for things as inconsequential as walking to the trash can to throw away a piece of paper. She absolutely could not deal with the fact that we periodically might need to actually leave our chairs for a perfectly valid reason. One day she locked herself out of the classroom and nobody would let her back in. Sorry, we aren't allowed to get out of our seats. She had to get the janitor. Lol. There was rule they put in place my freshman year of high school, that if you arrived late, that is, after first bell, you couldn't park in the parking lot. You'd have to park at the gas station down the highway and walk to school, making you even more late. It stopped after 20 or so people intentionally showed up late to school and made a mass exodus along the highway, on top of a lot of parents itching. My school banned all gonads over a couple of inches in diameter because someone kicked a football through a window during lunch. Most of us that walked home walked past the woods by the golf course and had a ready supply of golf gonads as a result. Golf gonads were allowed under the new rules due to their size. 3 broken windows in one lunch period later they weren't. When I was in kindergarten, during the morning announcements one day they came on and said, and please no throwing snowballs. There is a chance you might accidentally get some rocks in them. You could see on the faces of all 20-some students the realization that OMG we could put rocks in them. I'm a programmer. On a previous job, the developers and teams were measured by the number of feature requests they completed. We figured out to subdivide everything to blow it up into the maximum number of feature requests possible. A manager might request a new report. We'd set up separate feature tickets for create button, make button blue, make button respond when clicked, implement business logic, display results in grid, allow sorting of grid, and so on. We'd subdivide a one-day task into 21-hour tasks. Management loved it. Our team looked 20 times as productive, despite deliberately slowing ourselves down with red tape. Work wanted everyone to come in even when sick so my boss can inspect me if I can work or not. Doctor's note not accepted since they can be fake. Vomited on his desk over important papers. No regrets. I went to a private school for elementary, where uniforms were strict. If you didn't wear a belt you'd go to the principal's office and he would make you use a shoestring. Well, when he opened the drawer there was like 6 different colors and everybody thought it was really neat, so for a short period of time there was a bunch of kids coming to school with no belts so they could wear their lime green shoestring belt. Don't do anything unless directed by your boss. Any deviation from this will result in write-up termination. This was a very literal directive from upper management that took place after an office incident. Our work is very fluid, and our team alone contained 20 people. Needless to say, productivity hit unfounded lows. No running during recess. It was made because some kid in the 2nd grade ran and tripped. So for whatever reason, they restricted running for all grades K, 5th. Everyone should know that when you ask a 5-10-year-old to not do something, that's the next thing they're going to do. They started running in the halls, the cafeteria, the classrooms, and you bet your ass they ran outside. After a week, the teacher stopped enforcing it and everyone stopped caring. Edit, can't believe you people believe such an obvious lol mayo. My senior year of high school, some guy in my class got an in-school suspension for wearing a headband. He had long, curly hair, so the next couple weeks almost every guy on the football team started wearing headbands in protest. Keep in mind that girls could wear headbands, just not guys. No one really understood this rule. Edit, this took place right in the middle of football season. A school in my area jacked up the cost of the parking pass. People protested by not buying the pass. Instead they rode the bus. Funny thing is the county really relies on juniors and seniors driving because they don't have enough buses for all the students. The parking pass fee dropped. People drove again. Don't ever let them tell you driving to school is a privilege. They need you to drive to school. Our school made it so you couldn't play dodgeball anymore. So what happened was that the gym teachers came up with this new game called Fireball. The rules are there are gonads in the middle of the gym, people go on 2 separate teams, go 4, and if you get it you're out. If you catch a ball you okay, so it was basically dodgeball. Then Fireball was banned. So now there's this new game called Pinball, which isn't involving the machines unfortunately, but it's basically dodgeball Fireball, but there's bowling pins that need to be knocked over as well. I think they just gave up after a while. Zero tolerance, which means if you are involved with fighting, you will be kicked out. No questions asked. They think it would means no more fighting. Nope. It means if the bully is beating up a kid, no one would step in. For fear of involving with the fight and getting kicked out. No one would snitch because it means the bully will target you next. And now you are involved in fighting and get kicked out. It is a sheep policy. They started a no gum rule that made a lot of junior high kids start a black market for gum. This has probably happened lots of times. One of my teachers spotted a guy chewing and gave him the usual "well, I hope you brought enough for everybody." Whereupon he got up with a fistful of gum and started handing it out. She didn't send him to the principal, but she never tried that line again. Overtime is paid in free time instead of money. 3 people quit so far. More people planning to. No new hires to be found. It's probably just a matter of time before this shop closes down. That's wage theft and the Department of Labor takes that stuff very seriously. My JR high school adopted a policy to not allow kids to loiter in groups of 5 or more, in attempts to crack down on gang mentality. This was freaking JR high. Anyway, me and my group of misfits, 6 of us, were always hanging out during free times. And the principal eventually stopped us and asked us to separate. I had to casually explain to him that we not a group of 6, but 2 groups of 3 that were intermingling. People caught wind and that rule was basically dead. That was one of the few times I had to explain to my father why he was called into the principal's office with me. My high school made students wear these neon t-shirts that read "dress code violator" if their outfit didn't adhere to the school's policy. They became so popular the school began selling them 1 week later. We implemented the buddy bench for lonely people to sit on and make friends. It was pretty damn expensive and nicely decorated. Someone stole it. High school took all the stall doors off the boys' bathrooms because of graffiti or something. So I started pooping in the bathroom near the office. After a couple of times of the superintendent coming in while I was doing that, all the doors were put back on. My high school attempted to ban trip pants and the like. However, due to hilariously overlooked typo, the student handbook that got sent to students and parents just said students may not wear pants. We had a good laugh and it made the local news. Unfortunately, this does show the quality of high school I went to. Wasn't ready for college, haha. Not sure if it was exactly a rule, but my middle school once encouraged kids to not touch each other at all to reduce physical harassment cases. Even friendly gestures among friends. All that did was get the kids running around touching each other around campus for about a month and a half, screaming physical harassment. As they did so, to add insult to injury, they did it twice as often in front of the admin who made the presentation about it. If you return a library book late, your parents would have to return it and explain why it's late. It worked about as well as you would think. The rule lasted a few months before they figured it wasn't worth the cost of replacing all the books. This was actually in the news a couple of months ago. We had a really hot summer last year, and the boys at my little brother's secondary school were mad that they couldn't wear shorts but the girls could wear skirts. The junior leadership team brought it up at a meeting, and the head teacher jokingly went, "Alright, if the boys want to wear skirts, then let them." A group of boys went to school wearing skirts the next day. Then it wasn't just a group of them. I've told this story before, but my high school tried to crack down on people wearing their ties too short, as was the fashion. It got to the stage where anything except completely pristine uniforms would get you a detention, which, coming up to exam season, was one more thing we didn't want to deal with. In protest at what was widely seen as a ridiculous rule, ties started getting longer and longer, 1 foot, 2 feet, 2.5 feet, as long as people could get them. It culminated in one girl sewing two ties together into a 5-foot beast that trailed on the floor as she walked, and resulted in the deputy head having a screaming fit one day about how disrespectful we all were to the uniform codes. After that, the teachers quietly gave up on the new hardline approach to uniforms, and everything went back to normal. Our school has this day where you can wear pajamas to school but have to pay $1 to do it. Everyone started wearing pajamas to class anyway, saying it's what they normally wear, and didn't pay. The school got rid of PJ Day. Edit, typo. No short skirts rule at my high school resulted in a sharp increase of yoga pants. All the guys at my school saw this as a net gain and did a good job of not advertising our collective appreciation, for fear of ruining a good thing. In middle school I got sent to the office for too short shorts. They called my mom. My mom read them the riot act. My shorts weren't that short. We got a new manager for our office. She was an outside hire and was trying to prove herself quickly. And she was obsessed with efficiency. So, her first week here she sent out this very rudely worded email about employees eating at our desks. We have a very small break area, 4 tables, and we have about 300 employees here, and that we all had to stop eating at our desks because it was not efficient to eat and try to work at the same time. Through a coordinated effort by some of the more sassy people at the office, they all had their lunches at the same time and filled the break room with about 90 people, elbow to elbow, and they all ate standing up. Literally. The next day after that happened, she sent out a follow-up email saying that we could eat at our desks, but she advised us to take a break from our work from time to time. It was pretty funny. At my college, my dorm used to have this thing called Malt Mondays. Someone would go around knocking on doors at around 8 or 9 PM asking if you wanted to order a 40 ounces. Then they would go on a run to the liquor store and buy them for people that ordered them. We would then all hang out outside drinking 40s and listening to music until security came and told us to take it as inside. It was a fun tradition we had. But the dean hated it. He decided to fund his own Malt Mondays. But instead of malt liquor, he wanted to draw people in with free chocolate malts. What ended up happening is people who did the regular malt Mondays and wanted a chocolate malt would just go to that one first, get a free treat and then leave to go and drink 40s. No more smoking at the front gate during recess and lunch. Then the smokers started leaving at recess and didn't come back the rest of the day. When smartphones were starting to become popular, my school had a zero tolerance for phones policy. Having your phone out resulted in an immediate suspension. My phone went off in class my freshman year and I got suspended for that. Keep in mind I was that kid badge had a 4.0. Never broke any rules. Never even got a detention. And that was the thing that got me suspended. The school eventually removed the policy because more kids were getting suspended and I'm sure that made the school look bad. Not school, but work. My work just recently tried to implement a new attendance policy that didn't last 24 hours. They changed it so that after 2 unexcused absences in a year you were fired. An unexcused absence is any absence or tardiness. I think you were allowed 4 tardies when you didn't give your boss more than 24 hours notice. The school was so hopelessly obsessed with league table standings that any kids getting A grades were untouchable. They made the school look good, so they could treat who they liked how they liked. Bullying skyrocketed. The school's reputation plummeted. Attendance dropped. And their precious league table results followed. They put winning points ahead of the duty of care to the children. Hunts.